So, guys, here we are, MMA UK News. Obviously, myself, Stoomboy for the MMA UK BJJ show. So, this is our first show of the year. So, I hope everybody had a good Christmas and a good New Year. So, obviously, starting off this year with Grapplefest 11. So, Grapplefest 11 going to be at the usual place. It's going to be at Fusion Nightclub, Fleet Street in Liverpool. So, obviously, the usual place. Again, Chris Thompson and the guys at Grapplefest have put on an absolutely fantastic card. So this is going to be Daisy Fresh versus Europe. So obviously Daisy Fresh coming over with a team of guys. Obviously Heath bringing over obviously a good team with him. So it's going to be Daisy Fresh versus obviously some of the top guys in Europe. So again, there's going to be obviously the main card and then obviously the prelim card as well. Now, again, make sure you're getting your tickets either directly from the fighters, if the fighters have any left, or just go onto the Grapplefest page, Facebook page, and that'll direct you through to the website where you'll be able to buy tickets. Now, the last time I heard, obviously, tickets were very, very close to being sold out. I think it was 97% sold out, and that was a couple of days ago. So chances are there's probably no tickets left. So if you've missed out, then as I say, you'll be able to watch it on Flow Grappling as well. So make sure you get yourselves in on that as well. So my next guest then is going to be on the show. So Jamie Acton of ASW. Now Jamie obviously had a run out of the last Grapplefest. Normally the guys on Grapplefest normally have one fight. But Jamie obviously had a fight, got obviously the knee bar against Jonah O'Leary, and then obviously decided to jump in again and fight, I believe, Craig Burton, and obviously got the win against Craig as well. So Jamie comes from, Jamie's been training forever. Obviously, rugby league, obviously come into jiu-jitsu, MMA, grappling, and ASW, absolutely fantastic team he's with as well. So a lot of animals coming out of that camp. So Jamie, listen, absolute pleasure to have you on, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, very good. What an intro. Fantastic.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Nice one.
Definitely. Well, listen, we saw you at the last Grapplefest. I've seen absolutely awesome. Very, very. I mean, you went up against a couple of tough guys as well, but obviously got two victories. Obviously a victory on the prelims against Jonah, and obviously a victory on the main card against Craig. So, I mean, obviously going into that was the first time you were on Grapplefest. So, what was the atmosphere and things like that for you? Obviously going into that event.
Well, it's the first grappling show that I've done. I did an interclub with the ASW Liverpool, but essentially it was the second fight grappling competition I've ever done. So yeah, it was an experience. I loved it. It was fantastic. Yeah. I retired from rugby league about 3 years ago now, after breaking my neck, unfortunately, and it meant that I couldn't continue to play. It wouldn't ensure me to continue playing, and yeah, grappling's been a fantastic tool that I've certainly found something that I can put my efforts and motivation into, and energy into. Sorry, and it's been fantastic. Yeah,
definitely. And then obviously we know from you being in rugby, obviously you were a tough player, very, very tough player, and obviously coming into grappling as well. Obviously we saw you on Grapplefest as well, and again it was a tough matchup for Jonah, because obviously you were aggressive, you were pushing the pace and stuff like that, which is brilliant to watch, absolutely brilliant to watch. So plus the guys that you train with, I mean, obviously Tom Aspinall, Lee Chadwick, and I mean the list goes on. Obviously you guys you're training with a lot of really, really top level guys. So is that something, obviously, when it comes to grappling, obviously to push the pace and be aggressive the way you are, is that something that's important to you in your game?
I think we're really lucky living in Wigan to have such a unbelievable standard of athletes. And I've only obviously been aware of that since I've been in this game for the last, I think I started this time 2 years ago. And yeah, you've got obviously Darren Morris and ASW and the likes of Lee Chadwick training out of there. I go to Blackledge MMA once a week with Tom Blackledge and the likes of Andrew Clamp there. Try and get him Tom Aspinall, Calbon again. It's unbelievable breadth of talent in the Northwest. And I it's only now that I realise how lucky I am to be able to experience getting in with everyone and just learning as much as possible, really. But yeah, my loyalties lie to Darren Morris, and that my club's ASW. But to be able to go and just get rounds in and learn off a little bits off of all these other people, these amazing athletes is it's brilliant. It's absolutely awesome, and I think grappling's an amazing sport. It's very much a participant sport. You only really know what's going on if you're doing it. Otherwise, it just looks like two hairy or not so hairy, if it's in my case, men getting sweaty and cuddling each other aggressively. And you've got to understand the nuances to actually appreciate what's going on, I suppose. But what I've found is that the amount of people in the sport are there's some phenomenal human beings, and it's been a profound experience for me personally, growing as a human, listening to all these different people and perspectives and philosophies, and it's no coincidence that these guys are good at what they do. And are also very fantastic human beings. And that starts with Darren Morris. I don't think I've ever met a bloke that inspires me more. But again, Lee Chadwick, all the lads at ASW, Tom Blackledge, Tom Aspinall, all these lads. It's just great human beings, and trying to promote that as much as grappling, of what it should be to be a man these days. I think is really important. So that's what I'm all about.
Definitely. Well, that's one thing. I mean, for me, some of the best people I've ever met in my life have happened over the last 8 years when I started taking up jiu-jitsu. As I said, a lot of guys, and I've been, again, similar to yourself, I've been fortunate to train with world champions and European champions, British champions. And one thing I notice is everybody's humble. They're all humble. Obviously, don't get me wrong, there is a few dicks out there, all right. So, but the majority of people in grappling, they're all very, very humble, and do you know what I mean? Everybody wants to learn. Whether you go obviously at your own gym, whether it be ASW or you're traveling to different gyms and so on. We've all got the same goals. We all want to get better, progress, and so on. So for me, very, very similar. As I said, the last 8 years has been the best 8 years training wise for me. In regards to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the humble one's an interesting one because I've heard that term thrown around a lot in regards to fighting and grappling, and there seems to be a connotation attached to being able to do an armbar and therefore be a humble human being. Whereas you could be a bricklayer laying 200 bricks in 20 minutes, and you wouldn't be expected to be humble. So I think there's a little bit of a weird one. People associate the fact that just because you can fight or you can grapple means that you've got to be a certain type of person. I think that you should try to be that kind of person regardless of what you do for a living or what you do in your spare time. But I do find exactly what you've just said there is bang on. There seems to be this common thread attached with high performance fighters in MMA and grappling athletes that carry themselves in a fantastic way. And I started this sport because I wanted to wrestle other men. I don't know what that says about me, but there we go. But it's I love the competitive element and the sort of just that contact and combat element that I miss from rugby. But it's very much more turned into now, being around good people and being around good human beings. And there's so many different weird characters in this grappling sport. If you've been in the sport and you've done it, you understand all the little quirks and nuances involved in the grappling game, which when you try and articulate to someone else, it sounds ridiculous. Getting half naked and getting sweaty and cuddling each other doesn't make any sense to normal people.
No.
But those quirks and those nuances actually are fascinating, and I think it's quite profound how these what could be deemed as quite small, irrelevant conversations on the mat, sitting in between rounds, before training, after training, actually have huge ripple effects in regards to transferable qualities in people's lives that extends far further than being able to perform an armbar correctly on someone.
Yes, yes. And one thing as well, I mean, I noticed, I think it was what one of your posts, and you talked about obviously coming over from rugby and then obviously finding ASW, and you mentioned as well, you finally found a team of people that accept your weirdness, as you say.
I think probably because they're that weird themselves, them lot. They won't mind me saying that, but yeah, I did. Yeah, I think I suppose in all sports, and I found this in rugby. You know, there were certain teams that I felt I fit in, I gelled with more
Yeah,
than others, and I think that's quite important in a sport. I don't think it's. I'm obviously biased. I would say Darren's one of the best coaches, and the coaches that I train under, the Tom Black Legend, people like that,
yeah,
are some of the best. But you know, I think it's more important to spend time with people that you get on with,
yeah,
and you resonate with. Because if you're not happy in your training environment, it's unlikely you're going to be able to perform at your best. So I think it's finding where you fit. And yeah, ASW is very weird. I'm very weird. So it's a marriage in heaven.
nice, nice. And you mentioned obviously rugby league obviously ended, your career ended obviously broken neck, so obviously that had effect on things like mental health and stuff like that, because obviously you went from obviously an athlete, rugby league, and now you've got almost nothing because of the injury. So that had obviously a big effect on your mental health. And I know you're one person, obviously looking at your social media and so on. Obviously you've been on things like Sky News and so on talking about it. So, but you're a big advocate in mental health awareness and so on. So, so much so that you do Banish Fitness, I believe.
Yeah, I set up Banish on the back of finished rugby career. You know, long story short, I finished my career, had a whole sort of lack of identity, lack of purpose issue, and I think a lot of people can relate to that, coming out of maybe the services or business, or you know, all
Yeah,
sorts of walks in life, losing your job, maybe redundant, whatever. It can really damage you, and I don't think that. As humans, we prepare ourselves emotionally ready for these hurdles that a lot of us get in life, and it really knocked me for six. I didn't know how to really deal with it, and the light bulb moment really was that I was utilizing exercise as a bit of a crutch to facilitate my happiness, and you know, grappling was part of that. It's something I enjoyed. I think it's important when you're doing exercise to find something that you enjoy, otherwise you're not going to stick to it.
yeah,
But more than the grappling, it was the and the fighting. It was the people, as I keep saying. It's being around good people, and having people that you aspire to be like,
yeah,
that inspire you as a human, and they present a personification of this horizon that you're constantly trying to trying to achieve. Sorry, you know, when I listen to the likes of Darren and Tom and Tom Aspinall and Lee Chadwick and people like that, and I see their behaviours, and I watch how they carry themselves and what they talk about and their perspectives on things in life.
yeah,
It really makes you think, and you grow. And I think it's therefore really important. What I promote with Banish is to one, exercise to potentially utilize that endorphin rush, making yourself feel better through training and exercise to make you kind of banish those demons,
yeah,
as it were. But also to find people that inspire you, and to spend time with good people, because I think that all of us are a product of the people that we spend time with. So we've got to be really specific with who we choose to spend time with, but because of that reason.
yeah,
And I think ASW embraced that, and I think Tomo's done a great, great. It's undercut him there. It's an unbelievable job with
yeah,
Grapplefest, the show. I think he's taking it right back to its roots.
yeah,
Obviously, coming from a rugby background, I relished, you know, playing in front of fans, you know, chanting and booing you and cheering you on, and it's all part of the atmosphere. And I
yeah,
think my perception of martial arts when I've looked at it from the outside before getting into it, was very much the sort of traditional bowing and the I would say the softer approach. I don't mean any disrespect by that,
yeah,
but that it was almost maybe a diluted sense of what it's really about. when you go back to sort of gladiatorial Colosseum times, where you basically got two people trying to beat each other up and dominate each other, and making one submit to the other. And it's I think Tom has done a great job of, you know, taking it back to its roots of what's existed for a millennia, and giving the people what they want. You know, setting up, putting a load of mats in a nightclub in Liverpool, giving people a few bevies, and watching two people get at it. And I think as a participant in the sport, you can get a lot of value out of it because you understand the nuances and what's going on, and you can appreciate the grappling for what it is, a very elite, high standard of people that are on there, not me included. I don't know how I've really got on, but I think actually having people and spectators there that can just enjoy it from a more basic and fundamental approach of just two people trying to submit each other and beat each other up, it is a spectacle. And I think it's important that you don't sit quietly, and you don't you know, tell each other to be quiet and sit. I can't imagine playing rugby with, you know, several thousand fans watching you, but in absolute silence. It would ruin the atmosphere. So for me, it's what I relish, competing every week, competing in front of people, putting on a performance, and I think trying to bring that as much to grappling as possible is great for the sport, but it's also great for the people that enjoy watching the sport as well.
Definitely. What about Banish Fitness then? So how do people contact you in regards to that? So obviously I know that you're on Instagram and so on. So what if anybody out there obviously is looking to reach out, how do they do it?
Well, we're on all the different handles. Banish is on Instagram, on Facebook, banish.com as well. So we're out there for people that our target is the people who need a little bit of motivation, need a little bit of support, know that exercise might be good for them, they might be able to benefit from it, but don't really know what they're supposed to be doing or how to do it or what to be doing. And I'm there to show you in a really basic, fundamental way to get that momentum started, hopefully to leapfrog you and create some momentum so you can go and explore maybe other different forms of exercise, be it grappling, be it cycling, be it other forms of fitness classes or sort of social activities involving exercise. But it's basically that sort of middleman to get people back going again, and to people to maybe lean on when necessary. But yeah, it's there for everyone if they need it. I think it's important, without going on too much of a tangent, that when you look at MMA fighters these days, boxers, you know, I think Tyson Fury has done an incredible job with using his platform. But you looked at as this sort of male, typical stereotype sort of thug, you know, cauliflower ears, like talk about himself, bald head, not particularly attractive. And I had my teeth done recently. There's something like I
see that, I see it. Yeah. That's that Chris Thompson smile, by the way.
As much as possible. Sorry, I keep smiling. Head shining a little bit as well. Get that on. Perfectly fine. But yeah, I think it's important that we utilise our that position. That sounds quite like I'm blowing smoke up my arse a little bit, but what I mean by that is I think for young men specifically, they respond better to male role models that are stereotypically what they might want to look like or be like, be it an MMA fighter, a rugby player, a boxer. I know when I was young at school, if the likes of a Johnny Wilkinson rugby player or a Tyson Fury had come in and said, listen, don't act like this. This is what you need to act like. Go and train. Go and do this. I'm going to listen to it and relate to it a lot more than my female maths teacher. As much as misogynistic as that might sound, I just think it's the truth. And I think, therefore, it's important that if you are in a sport of grappling, MMA, or doing anything, and you fit that stereotype, as it were, you utilise your platform, because I don't think people, men specifically, realise how much of an impact they can have. I know for me, it's been an amazing journey, actually talking about my emotions and talking about the depression that I went through and the suicidal thoughts and, you know, these really low anxiety inducing situations that I think all of us suffer with up and down in our lives. Actually getting that conversation going and going, you know, you can look big and strong on the outside and as bold as you you want, but you can still cry. You know, I cry multiple times in the week, and you can break down, you can feel anxious, you can feel vulnerable, you can get upset, and you can be terrified and scared and worried and get yourself worked up and beat yourself up and have all these problems going on in your life. And that's normal. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter how big and strong you might look, we all deal with it inside our brains. We've all got the same brains. And it's really important, therefore, I think men of that stature, I suppose, far greater than I am, people at the top, utilize their platform to say, no, it's okay to talk. It's okay to talk about your feelings, you know, talk about the weird nuances in their own lives, so people actually can think that they're normal and not this false pretense that is now spread over social media in this kind of fake world that a lot of us sort of live in, unfortunately, these days. So I'm quite, as you can tell, quite passionate about promoting that and trying to help other men talk about these same sort of issues, to stick together, you know, try. I think as men, we've got to have that brotherhood and stick together to empower each other. Definitely.
Listen, all power to you. As I say, you're doing a fantastic job. As I say, the mental health awareness, certainly in males, is it still a stigma at the moment? Obviously, guys don't want to talk. Some guys won't talk about it. Other guys are quite open to talk about, obviously, their issues and so on. So,
mate, listen, having a cage fight or getting on a rugby pitch or going in a grappling competition is small fish compared to dealing with depression and being in that horrible hole and ringing your mate and saying, I need some help, I need some support. Never mind fighting another man, fighting yourself in that situation and your brain to actually ask for help and show vulnerability in that extent. That's tough, man. That's hard. It's a hard thing to do. So anyway, any blokes listening to this that can resonate with any of those feelings, talk, speak up. It's horrible. It's the one of the hardest things you'll ever do. But if you do it, it's the most amazing thing that you'll ever do as well, and you'll feel a million times better for it. So make sure you do.
Yeah, so guys, check out Banish Fitness across all social media. So obviously your matchup, let's go back to Grapplefest 11 then. So matchup, Mark Macqueen. So Mark Macqueen is a teammate of mine. Okay, so obviously I've trained with Mark. Mark's again similar, comes from a competitive background, obviously world champion power lifter and stuff like that. So so again, Mark's similar to you because both of you guys have been training from a very, very young age and trained at a very, very good level and was always competing. Obviously, you playing rugby league and then Mark obviously doing powerlifting and so on. So again, two similar weights, similar heights as well. So so what about the matchup then? So how did the matchup come about for you?
Unfortunately, it just, I got told that who I was fighting. I hadn't heard of Mark Macqueen before. I'm not a huge avid sort of fan of the sport in terms of from behind the scenes watching it all the time. So I don't mean any disrespect to Mark in that by saying that. But he's definitely got a lot better name than I have. So he's 1-0 up already, isn't he? So I'm on the back foot. But yeah. A power lifter, fantastic. It's I love competing. It's interesting because as a rugby player, and he probably can relate to this as well, I was very used to my career to compete every week. So you have a match at the weekend and you've got an evening to feel sorry for yourself, and then the next day you're focusing on the next match and you're working on stuff. And there seems to be, from my interpretation of the sport, experience of the sport so far, this massive association with winning and losing in terms of competition, and I don't really understand it from my own professional experience in sport. Obviously we all want to win, but by all means, but it's you don't always win, and it's important just to have the experience and compete. The amount of people that in my experience playing rugby that you train with, a fantastic training, but can't put it together on the field,
Yeah.
and vice versa are hate training, but it comes to game day and they absolutely kill it. And I think being able to compete, whether it's grappling, rugby, powerlifting, whatever your sport is almost an art in itself. You've got to get good at it. And it doesn't matter how good you are at a sport technically, being able to deliver on the night is an art in itself. And the only way you get better at that is doing more of it. So I think having a good competitive match in front of loads of fans in a great venue, win, lose, whatever, bring it on. Fantastic.
Definitely. This is going to be two juggernauts going at each other. This is two big guys. I mean, I remember I was talking to Chris just yesterday, and I was saying, I hope you've got the barriers where the spectators stand. I said, I hope you've got that reinforced, because this is, as I say, two big guys, as I say, 100 plus kilos. Again, I think we use about 100, and I think you came in about 108 the last time, so around about 108. So again, Mark, very, very similar. So, and the two you guys have got a similar style as well. So so it's going to be I mean, people are talking about match of the night's going to be like, say, your Fionn Davies, and your Mikey Musumekis and things like that. But this is the fight that, as soon as Chris put it up, this is the fight I was like, this is the one I want to see. And not just me, but there's everybody out there is wanting to see this fight as well.
Two big ugly men wrestling with each other. I've just called Mark Macqueen ugly there, haven't I?
Oh, listen, he is.
Sorry,
if he's watching this, he definitely is.
I think heavyweight always offers a different dynamic, doesn't it? It's an interesting battle. I don't know how long Mark's been doing the sport. Obviously, I think I started about this time 2 years ago, and so for me, I still feel very much like a fish out of water in a lot of aspects, and I think I'm just really enjoying it. I'm just really enjoying spending time with the people and the competition. One of the big things I miss from rugby is the competition. So competing at the weekends and just having that thrill and that endorphin rush. I relished it playing rugby, and so just having that for me is a massive win. So can't wait. Bring it on.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I do as well, Jamie, I go on social media and I find some things that I want to ask you about. So I'm going to bring this up. So this is on your Instagram. So I just want to hear a little bit more about this, Jamie. All right. So let's have a look. So I don't know if you can see that.
I can't see it. You'd have to describe it. I'll try and remember it. It's either a ukulele or it's me doing some dancing.
It's you doing some dancing. You were at, I believe, a wedding recently. You were doing your hip mobility workout. So
yeah.
So was that dancing or was that exercise you were doing, Jamie?
Listen, that is the invisible hula hoop. It's been practiced and perfected, as you can see, hopefully on the video, over years of training, and I think I executed it perfectly on the night, and I would give myself at least a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 for effort.
Yeah. Listen, it was absolutely awesome. As I say, let me see if I can get this, because as I say, when I was going through, I was like, this. It was brilliant. As I say, we do. There we go. I've got it now. So
I can see something coming up now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
What a guy. You
got the hip mobility. You were talking about it in the post there, saying that when people say to me, would you rather have a good time at a wedding or do hip mobility? My answer's always the same to me. So they're not mutually exclusive. So
no, they're not. It's the speed, isn't it? It's the speed. Fast. Social media is funny, isn't it?
It is.
It's funny. It's a funny one. I think this the grappling sport and the world of fighting. I think people can take it a little bit too seriously sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm a big advocate for just sort of come on. At the end of the day, it's a very weird sport. It's very weird and it's very strange. And the minute it starts becoming overly technically, and I'm not articulating this exceptionally well because I'm worried I'm going to upset anyone. But it's weird, isn't it? There's a lot of weird people that do it.
There
Me,
is.
more weird than ever, and just the sport itself is very odd. When you
Yeah.
try and explain it, when I try and explain it to my wife, I think she came to the last Grapplefest show, and I went, "What did you think?" And she just went, "It's very weird, Jamie," and it's. I think there's something not telling me. It's quite homoerotic, and you know, you're half naked trying to aggressively cuddle another man, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I think we've got to put everything into context when we're talking about grappling and fighting.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a bit of a laugh, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And then what about you going forward then? So obviously we saw you on the last Grapplefest. You're obviously on this one. So what's the plans for Jamie Acton 2022?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm obviously, I've got a big mental health campaign launching with Banish, doing it with like a Wigan Youth Zone at the moment. So we're working with like lots of different trainers and trying to get out to a lot of kids and sort of promote exercise and how it can transform your emotions and your feelings and benefit from exercise in the same way that I benefit from it. So we're trying to do that at the moment with Banish and sort of build momentum there. I'm a personal trainer, so I've still got my clients that I train on a daily basis, and then I train every day. I've not really got any specific goals in mind in terms of grappling and fighting. I'm really, as I said, getting better at fighting and grappling seems to be a second string to sort of growing as a person, and I'm finding that the more time I spend with the people in the sport, as I've already mentioned, the happier I'm feeling and the more I'm growing as a person, and I think grappling sort of as a byproduct and fighting is growing from that. That being said, I was a bit gutted last year. I had several fights. I had pullouts on all of them, which was really frustrating. So I'd love to get a little bit more active this year. I think competing's fantastic because it's scary. You know, it's you don't want to lose. Your ego's at bay, and I think it's important to do difficult things in life, challenge yourself, because that's where you don't become happy unless you're going through some sort of struggle, and that self-recognition of success of going through that struggle and getting over those hurdles is what gives you self-confidence and makes you feel happy. So fighting and getting in the cage and scrapping and competing is something that I find quite challenging, scary, more for sort of your ego, the fear of like, oh, you're going to be judged. You know, people aren't going to think you're a man because you've had your knee barred or you've been strangled in front of people, and it's just like, mate, come on, sort yourself out. But that conversation in my brain is quite profound for me personally, because I think, well, you've obviously still got an ego, pal, because you're worried about that judgment and that fear, and therefore it's important to go out and do it to try and get over that fear. And I think that really is the why I'm doing it. If that turns into something a little bit more professional later on in the future, then fantastic. But I just want to get loads of experience and enjoy competing and keep growing.
Definitely. And then a couple of things coming in. Obviously, Rob Cunningham. Jamie's a top man, one of the best blokes I've met in combat sports. So big shout out to Rob there.
I'll send you the tenner, Rob.
And then Andy Haney coming in said, Jamie, how do you deal or how do you prepare for a world champion powerlifter? Now that's probably, I mean, in obviously grappling, I mean, world champion powerlifter, that's fine, but you're not going to be using you're not going to be using powerlifting in a grappling match. So, and again, that'll be a question. I'll put that to Mark as well. Look, Mark, how do you deal with an ex-rugby league player? So I'll put the same question to him. So
that was actually a goal of mine.
Yeah.
To this year to try and be seen. I was actually specific to MMA, to a fight, to be my coach Darren, for him to turn around after a fight and go, "You look like a fighter," rather than you look like an ex-rugby player trying to have a fight.
Yes.
And I think that for me would be a great tool. So a real compliment would be if the likes of Tomo or you know, Darren or some of the coaches or people I train with actually was to turn around and say, yeah, you look like what you knew what you were sort of doing there, rather than you just look like a rugby player trying to squeeze someone's head. And so that's probably a personal goal that relates to me. I don't know if that's quite answered the question of how to prepare for a world champion powerlifter. I feel like it's a loaded question, that one. I don't really know how to answer it, so I'll have to pass.
Well, that's the thing, I say, it's like powerlifting. Yeah, you can be a world champion powerlifter, but you're not going to be using powerlifting in a grappling match. So obviously you're going to be grappling. So whether you were a world champion powerlifter or rugby league player or whatever sport you did before you came into grappling, none of that, you're not going to be using any of that in a 10-minute grappling match. So
no, I think cross training does have a transfer the elements of it. Obviously, Mark, if he's a ex powerlifter, is going to be a super strong bloke, and utilizing those parts of your anatomy is part of the art of grappling, isn't it? It's understanding the techniques and then applying your own body composition to leverage the techniques that you know on your opponent. I think that's why it's an art rather than sort of a science. I think it's a blend, isn't it? I think that can work two ways. I think that's fantastic in a lot of ways, but Mark would probably agree. I know from a rugby perspective, something as simple as throughout my career in rugby, you were conditioned to keep your hips very square. Because of tackling and defensively, losing your hips in a defensive position could be awful for people sort of getting past you. And obviously for boxing and for striking, not rotating your hips is an awful thing to adopt. So it's really counterintuitive to actually, it's sort of trying to detrain yourself from a lot of things. So I'm sure Mark would probably resonate with a lot of things that he's maybe learned through powerlifting, that he's maybe had to adapt, that actually haven't directly transferred over to support his grappling. So I think it actually can work like a double-edged sword, really.
Yeah, definitely. And then final thing for you then, Jamie, obviously you've been in the game a couple of years now. Obviously, we've obviously seen you tail end of last year. We're hopefully going to see a lot more from you this year as well. So what's anybody you want to shout out to? So any kind of friends, family members, teammates, any sponsors or anything like that you may have?
No, just I'm as I've already said, I'm Darren Morris is my coach, and I'm part of ASW, but I am a bit of a gym slag. I'm so lucky to have all these gyms around me with these amazing, like, you know, as I said, I keep saying names: Tom Blackledge, you know, Andrew Clamp, Ali Katz, St Chorley, with Neil Atkins running that. You know, Carbon with Tom Asper. All these lads are we're so lucky. I'm so blessed to have such an array of talent in the area, and to get beaten up by so many people. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yes. But listen, absolute honour to have you on. As I said, I love your style of grappling. I absolutely love it. So it's one of the things I'm going to do this year is I'm going to get travelling about and going. I used to do it before and travel about different gyms and so on. So it's definitely something I want to do. And ASW, obviously I know Chris, obviously Kev Owen and stuff like that. Obviously ASW. So ASW is definitely gyms that I want to hit up at some point this year. So
I think Darren, our head coach, he's a hidden gem. He's of a bloke, and he's a hidden secret in the world. And he's when you talk about humble, I think he's the personification of the word. And it's one of the lads, Ben, training, coined him with the phrase "the encyclopedia of violence." I think that sums him up quite nicely. I think he's come from that Wigan background where it's just sort of out and out couch wrestling and sort of old style traditional judo when leg attacks were still allowed before they changed things, and he's put things together. And it's funny when we talk and you see jiu-jitsu practitioners come up with what they refer to as new moves and things these days, and it's like, hang on, Darren's been coaching this right from day dot, like since the 80s, and it's quite funny to look at. But yeah, just from a personal perspective, I think that he goes under the radar a little bit. So he needs credit where credit's due. I think he's created a bit of a legacy. The amount of people in this world that know him, that have been coached by him or trained with him, that have nothing but good words to say about him as a bloke, but also about his knowledge. It's gone under the radar a little bit. So I think he's earned that legacy that needs to be talked about, communicated and shared with people. So if you can get down and help promote that, I think that from a personal perspective, I think lads at ASW would also agree with my opinion.
Definitely. Listen, ASW, definitely a great team. As you guys, certainly putting together an absolute fantastic team of guys and females and males across all weight divisions. So, and we're seeing it obviously more and more on things like Grapplefest and stuff like that. Obviously, Grapplefest having a massive platform of Flow Grappling and so on. So, so yeah, definitely looking forward to coming down to see you guys. So, so guys, couple of things, obviously Banish Fitness, so make sure you go on the social media, as I say, Instagram, Facebook and so on. So just search for Banish Fitness and obviously get more details on that. As I say, that's a fantastic thing. Mental health affects everybody, so make sure you do reach out and get help if you do need to. So also Grapplefest 11, as I mentioned, it's going to be Saturday 26th of February, Fusion Nightclub, Fleet Street in Liverpool. So again, tickets, if there is any availability, the fighters are going to possibly have some. If they're sold out, then the chances are more than likely you're going to need to go on Flow Grappling and get yourself set up with obviously the link for that. So Jamie, listen, absolute honour to have you on, buddy.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
We normally do this for about 15 minutes or so, but we got chatting. So, but listen,
anyone who knows that I can talk for days on this. Sorry about that.
No, listen, absolutely. Listen, I absolutely love. Mate, I could sit and do this for hours. I mean, I set up interviews and I do like, I'll maybe do like 3 or 4 interviews a day and so on and so on. Normally, when it comes up to Grapplefest, yeah, I'll sit and talk about this every day for hours and hours a day. So, but no, listen, absolute pleasure. I'm going to be down there on the night. I didn't get down to the last one, so I'm going to get down on this one. I've already booked the hotel, got all the travelling sorted. So I'll see you on the night. But listen, stay safe, Jamie. Obviously,
you too, mate. All the best. Thanks so much for having me on. See you later.
Not a problem, buddy. Thank you again, buddy.
Thanks, mate. See you in a bit.